Like most cities in the region, Jaffa had a tradition of religious tolerance. Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived alongside each other, though intermarriage was considered a step too far. A string of new churches had been built as Ajami Street developed, while most of the mosques were clustered near the old city.
Back then, when we were young, we didn't understand that so-and-so is Christian or that so-and-so is Jewish. What do I care about his religion? So-and-so is my friend.
Christian and Muslim were brother, really.
You lived as one, as a big family, huh?
No, nothing, no different. And the Orthodox club was established in 1924. So many Muslims were members in the Orthodox club, because there was no Muslim club. My club was established 1926.
I never felt, even not as a person, nor in our house, a kind of racial discrimination. On the contrary, I know that my mother and my grandmother were in good terms with so many Jewish families that come from Arabic origin, living in that area. I remember, for instance, a family by the name of Moyal. I remember a family by the name of Braz. I remember a family by the name of Shlush. If you don't tell me that this is a Jew, I wouldn't even know the difference.
But in the main, the Jews who were making Tel Aviv were not the Arabic speakers of local tradition. They came from Europe, spoke a modernized version of Hebrew, and were fired with a visionary ambition to create a homeland for the world's Jews. A new Zion on the land of biblical Israel. The fast-growing Jewish city was becoming a strong challenge to Jaffa in terms of population, economics, and culture. Some Palestinians saw the Zionist project and its achievements as a threat to their existence as a people. Others did not.
Maybe it was an unnecessary feel of conceit, of vanity on the part of the Palestinians, that they did not take the Jews seriously. We never thought. My mother, who was illiterate, whenever she used to share in a discussion, she used to refer to these poor guys. I mean, don't take them seriously. Do they really dream of taking over our country? We were looking upon them as peaceful people, and they must be given a chance to live. But they should not try to overplay it. So how do you describe this feeling? I don't know. And believe me, I would say it now. And I think that goes for a lot of Palestinians. We never hated the Jews, or at least, to be much more punctual, we never hated them enough to fight them as they deserve to be fought.
From the moment the British had arrived in 1917 to take over from the Ottoman Turks as rulers of Palestine, there had been protest and conflict over the issue of Zionism, made more intense by Britain's declared policy to support the creation of a Jewish state on this land. Over the 30 years of British rule, the Arabs and Jews became increasingly militant and violent with each other. The clock tower end of Ajami Street became a focal point for protest. The imperial power considered itself stuck in the middle of two warring factions, but few Palestinians considered the British to be an even-handed occupation force.
Whatever the Jews wanted, the British would do for them. What we wanted, they would turn a blind eye to. When the Jews would get angry and our people become aware of what they were doing, the English would come along with tanks and would fire at us.
يجي الإنجليز بالدبابات ويوقف ويضربنا. وين نتخبى؟ يتخبوا بالبلد القديمة.
Where would our people hide? Only in the old city. No car, motorbike, or even bicycle would be able to pass through. Steps and narrow alleyways. The English couldn't enter.
وطلعات وزواريب ضيقة ما يقدرش يفوت الإنجليز.
Ismail Abu Shehadi's grandson, Sami, an academic committed to keeping the story of Jaffa alive, describes to me the hidden story of the open park that was created by the Israelis on what was once the high point of the old city. He explains that before the Nakba, this place was crammed with streets and alleys, so tightly packed that it was impossible for the British forces to penetrate them. But after an especially intense period of Palestinian protests in 1936, which the British called the Arab Revolt, the occupying army moved in to take control. The British chose a method of occupation that has been employed by the Israelis ever since. The demolition of houses.
So the British mandate in 1937 wanted to occupy Jaffa again, and they invented a new modernizing plan, they call it. It's called the Anchor Plan. They told the people that after 20 years of rule, now we notice that part of the people here are not living in healthy conditions. So we will bomb their houses, destroy them, and make a big space so they can have more sun and air.
The new street pattern, in the shape of an anchor, scarred an ancient city and forced hundreds of families from their homes.
زهقنا حياتنا. تشردنا فلتنا بيوتنا هبطوهم.
We began to hate our life. They made us leave our homes and they demolished them. Then they put up tents for us in the sand as if we were going on a trip. Some stayed for a month and then left. Some stayed for 2 months. Whoever couldn't afford to leave died right there. People started to build on the edges of the city, seeing as the old city had been demolished.
It wasn't just the poor who were victims of the weapon of demolition. The showroom where ANDRAUS sold American cars to the wealthiest citizens of Jaffa and Tel Aviv was destroyed as an act of punishment. But who exactly was being punished, and for what, remains unclear to this day. Amin's daughter, SUAD, tells the story.
There was a British soldier guarding on the roof of the showroom, and he decided to smoke a cigarette, and there were snipers from the Jewish side, and who killed him. And when that happened, the British, because it happened on his property, they blew up the showroom. If something terrible happened in a place, then the punishment was, they didn't stop to think or whether it was his fault or not his fault. And they just blew up.
They blew up the place where the policeman was killed and the place where the sniper was.
The British knew that their enemies could be anywhere in the local population, whether in Tel Aviv or Jaffa. They would search house to house for people and weapons.
At dawn time, there was a hell of a knock at our door. My father opened, and there were British soldiers. They were checking in our houses for rebels and arms. My father, my older brothers were taken away from my home, from our home, to a certain field where all men were gathered together. Later on the day, my father and my brothers came back after sunset. To our surprise, my mother pulled out something from her chest, which looked like an orange to me or something. And she said, "What is this?" And my father detected that that was a bomb. And he asked my older brothers, "To whom does this bomb belong?" There were 3 older brothers. I knew automatically it was not number 1, not number 3, it was number 2, I know. And his name was Jamal.
How did you know?
From his character.
Right, okay, from his
I
personality.
was, since that time, an admirer of this brother of mine. I found him my ideal. He was tough, hard-working person, good in school. All good qualities were concentrated on this much more than the rest of my brothers.
You looked up to him a lot.
I looked up on him. So my father took the bomb and threw it away. He hid it away. My brother pretended that he doesn't know. He doesn't know where my mother found it, and he said, "I don't know." Anyway, but later on I found that my brother was with a group from the city, from the area, who were making a sort of a small gang to protect Jaffa from the Zionists and from the colonialists.
By 1947, the British, exhausted by a world war, were losing the stomach for imperialism. They were preparing to wash their hands of Palestine and quit.